I'm using this title format because yesterday I was too busy to post, so I basically have 2 days worth of news to catch up on, so I'm gonna put all of it in today's video. Now I will warn you, I might miss a couple things because over the past 2 days I haven't really been in the community that much, or at least I haven't been checking up on it, so I've probably missed a few things, but also I haven't really been keeping up with the drama, and I know there is a bunch of drama going on right now. Aquamarine has a bunch of drama revolving around it. There's drama with the injury verifiers, there's a big one with Cuatrocientos that's pretty serious. And obviously, those are major events, so I will cover them, but not today because I just don't know enough about the situations, so I don't want to comment on it to give, false info. So I'm gonna wait and put them all in one separate video where I actually have time to look into them and can actually give a proper read of what's going on. But for now, let's look at some positive things that have happened in the community, starting with a big one. If we scroll down on the demon list here, you'll notice a new placement, which is the ranked 37th level Sacrifice. This was verified by one of the best Korean players in the game, and while this level itself is pretty cool, and it is pretty interesting, it's a more longer styled level, and it's similar to the Reda levels, but that's not actually what we're mainly focusing on, because this level knocked 2 noticeable levels off the list. First of all, this level's placement was able to finally move Tartarus off the top 100 of the demon list, which was a huge event. If I'm not mistaken, Tartarus is the longest lasting level that was top 1 on the list. Tidal Wave might have been longer if it ended up rated like as soon as it got verified, but I'm pretty sure we're talking about from placed on the demon list to going to number 2, Tartarus was the longest. And to see Sonic Wave Infinity as well, 1 spot away from falling out of the top 100, we've just left an era. It just doesn't look like a real sight to look at, but it's true, this is actually happening. And then also Hard Machine fell out of the top 150, it's now Legacy with Guideless Goobering at the 150th spot. That one's also pretty major because it was one of the most popular levels to do as a first list demon, or just to beat in general. It was so popular to the fact that despite levels getting placed above the ones I've beaten on the list, I still moved up like 150 points on the stats viewer, or something like that. It was like 100 spots, just because Hard Machine fell to Legacy and a bunch of people lost their list points. But there has also been some pretty major progress on some of the top levels on the demon list, starting with Thinking Space 2. Obviously, we saw Trick recently beat Thinking Space 2 as its second victor, finally, but we also have been seeing some people start to tackle it, mainly Cursed and Dovin have recently come up, and we can see that 21 hours ago, the top player Dovin was able to get 81% on the level. Which, by the way, this guy's progress is absolutely bonkers. Obviously, he had this incredible month-long run where he just beat a bunch of the hardest levels, and then he took a bit of time, and then eventually beat Orbit, which obviously is one of the hardest levels in the game. And then a month after that, he decided to tackle Thinking Space 2, and then 12 days ago he got in 2 runs, then he got 76%, and then 81%. This also makes him another player to get list percent on this level. Now, obviously, keep in mind that he isn't necessarily close to beating it, because of how Thinking Space 2 works. You will probably not see someone fluke this level for a very long time, at least when it's off the top 10, just because of how it functions. It's like Thinking Space in the way that the ending is way harder than anything else. And it's why we have these people like Cursed who are able to, out of nowhere, get over half the level done, and it just looks really impressive. And while it is very impressive, it's still the second hardest level in the game, there's a reason why these people are dying very far into it. But even then, getting to the 80s is crazy impressive, because you still have to get through all of the 70s, which is a mind-numbingly difficult part, and then obviously to even get to 70, you have to do the entire first 70% in Thinking Space 2, which is no easy task as well. So actually major props to Dolphin for being able to do this. I've always stated I think that he will become one of the big players along with Zoink and Popoff, and I think he's just proving it here. Genuinely, this guy, if anyone has a shot besides Popoff of dethroning Zoink, then I think it's probably going to be Dolphin. I nearly forgot to add this in, but Popoff has also started a new top 50 called Peak, and this is going to be a verification, so it's interesting to see that he's verifying something that isn't, top 1 hardest level ever. I mean, he did that with levels like Ordinary, but, it's cool to see he's doing it again. This level is pretty fine. It seems to be a city/disco themed level. It seems pretty empty in parts, but I do like the colors. They pop very well, and the gameplay seems pretty interesting and fun. I don't have too much to comment on because besides this stream, I haven't seen much on this level, and honestly, there isn't too much to say about it because, Pop-Up's gonna beat this in a day. I've never really seen it other than this live stream, so it doesn't really have much history here, but, when it gets verified, I'll look into it a bit more, and we can discuss it a bit deeper. But yeah, it just seems like a pretty cool verification for now. The next player we're gonna talk about is one of the best Chilean players in the game. You can see he already has 73% on the stats viewer here, because there are a ton of people that are actually beating Tidal Wave now. You can see so many with progress. There's 6 that are on the stats viewer that have progress. That is so much for a level of this difficulty, and obviously there is a lot more victors of this level now. However, all of the Russian community, well, not all, most of the Russian community on the top end left the Pointer Crate Demon list, so they don't show up. So yeah, Tidal Wave is a lot more accessible than it was, back in 2023, 2024. And this player is Baltadash, who is a very, very good player. Not only did they beat the Wonder of You a month ago, but you can see this recent Tidal Wave progress is very impressive. 91% plus 29 to 100 3 weeks ago, and then very recently, 2 days ago, 93% plus 22 to 100, and this is with under 1,000 views, and that's probably just because of how many people are actually playing this level now and getting good runs. The stuff like this just goes under the radar. I decided to cover this one because I feel like this is the most impressive run on Tidal Wave that I've seen. Obviously, there are people who are very, very consistent at Tidal Wave and will definitely beat it soon that have also made progress recently, like Bacon, but I kid you not, if I was to list everyone that's doing stuff on Tidal Wave, it would make an entire documentary worth of, content. There are so many people playing Tidal Wave right now. It's honestly, I can't believe it. A couple years ago, I would have never expected, 2026, that early on, to have so many people playing Tidal Wave. Obviously, that sounds weird because Tidal Wave has went without any victors or, many victors for a long, long period of time. So it kind of looked like it was just gonna stay like that. It looked like no matter what, until this level fell off maybe like the top 10, 15, that we were at a point where we only have a couple people just pushing the boundary and everyone can't catch up. But no, we're actually seeing many, many people catch up now, and it's now pretty possible to enter the top 5, at least with Tidal Wave still at 5th. You also probably know about CC because recently this player has been doing crazy things when it comes to Silent Club Step, and when I say Silent Club Step, I'm not talking about the one on the list, I'm talking about practically unnerfed Silent Club Step, or as it's known now, Eternal Silence. I say as it's known now, but Eternal Silence is just the coined name for the version that Kulik decorated, but everyone is playing on the LDM, which is just regular unnerfed Silent Club Step, and this isn't really changed in gameplay at all, besides very, very, very minor things that only exist because of what we use to play the game now. But the reason we are covering CC is because CC recently got 24 to 100 on the level, meaning this is drop to 100, which is very impressive. Obviously, still nowhere near beating it because we still have to do this from 0, and this level is balanced the same as the nerfed Silent Club Step is. So the beginning is super, super hard, but 24 to 100 is more difficult in this version than the current rated one. I know that none of the players playing Eternal Silence are in a race to verify it, but it is pretty cool to watch CC, Vision, and Chicoa play this level because I think they're pretty neck and neck. Obviously, Vision's a bit further behind, but they're all looking like they have a good shot at beating it first, and there is still a ton of other people that are playing this on the sidelines. I do think it's pretty sad that No Name ended up dropping the level, but it's led to these players being well more known for their talent, so I think overall it was a good thing. Also, the player Agonom just beat Maniacal Chains, which is a very difficult level. I think it's top 40 now, but you can see that he is the first victor. I could make a video on this guy on his own because he's got some very interesting stuff on his profile. He was the first Korean victor of Through the Gates, and he also has 39 to 69 on Flame Wall, and he was also the first victor of Master of Puppets, another very difficult level. I thought it was kind of weird that Maniacal Chains didn't actually have a first victor until now, but then after one look at the level again, reminding me what the gameplay looks like, it makes sense. But to be honest, this looks like something a Korean player would love. Obviously, it doesn't go for every Korean player, but it's just a fun thing that's known in the community that Korean-styled gameplay for the longest time was very quirky looking. And that was just because of, you know, the age of the game when Korea was the dominant country. And this level kind of reminds me of that stuff, like Niflheim. It's very similar. I also find it just really cool that there are so many Korean players in the game still. South Korea is still honestly pushing the boundaries of the game, and after all this time, they still have a ton of players. They're able to do stuff even as hard as Tidal Wave. It's mad impressive. It's also really interesting to me because I feel like outside of South Korea, there isn't really many Asian countries that are dominant at GD. Obviously, there are, you know, players from every nation. There's some really good Japanese players in the game. Indonesia is known for a couple players, but I feel like none of them are, like, anywhere close to South Korea. So I wonder what just made GD blow up for specifically South Korea. I would say the only countries that GD is more popular in, proportionally, is the USA, Russia, and maybe Spain. Spain's also pretty big. And maybe the UK as well. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Huge congrats to being the first victor here. I think this player has a lot of potential to go very far in the game, and I can't wait to see what they beat next. And some fun news to end it off here. King Samalot's brother was able to beat Astral Divinity, which I'm pretty sure is one of King Samalot's hardest completions, if I'm not wrong. I know he's beaten stuff like Nelvin Fog, but I'm pretty sure he beat Astral Divinity and was pretty far up there. Well, his brother's done it as well, and it's kind of funny that we're seeing so many people have relatives, specifically brothers it looks like, who are just also starting to play the game now. Like, we saw Abdul Devil's brother beat Tartarus, and now King Samalot's brother is beating Astral Divinity. He's genuinely cranked at the game, surprisingly. But yeah, I don't have much more to say now. Obviously, a bunch of drama happened, but there's so much that I think it's better that we cover it in a separate video, and it allows me to have more time to actually know what is going on. Because there are some pretty lengthy documents for one of them, and the other two I just don't really know too much at all about the situation. So I need to revise on that. But thanks for watching all the way through. Hope you learned something that you didn't know already, and peace.